10th of May, Rabbi Furst, Pirkei Avos, Ruth.
Okay, can you hear me now? Anybody there?
Hello, Barry, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yesterday it wasn't working. Now it's working. Okay, good. Thank you.
Good morning, Barry.
Morning. My audio seems to be working today
Great.
on the hands-free system. I don't have to.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic.
I just wanted to ask what your take on this is. It always confuses me when you have so many different opinions about an event, like when was Ruth Megayer? So far, the rabbis quoted about 5 different opinions, ranging all the way from she was Megayer in Moab, all the way to, up until Boaz.
Oh, okay. Right.
So,
Right.
so I mean, it's so confusing. Why isn't it possible to arrive at the emes? I mean, she was Megayer, okay, but why can't we come to the truth? I mean, we all agree that we got the 10 Commandments on Har Sinai, et cetera. There's no question that it was maybe it was the day before, and they only said it was this because there's some events where there is a consensus.
Yeah, but Har Sinai, you had millions of people there witnessing it. With Ruth Megayer, what you need, I think you need 2 people and that's it, or?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that in the Torah, there's a pasuk that tells you that that's where the Torah was given, in Har Sinai.
Right.
Tells you,
right.
a pasuk tells you very clearly. So I'm just confused as to why there's no pasuk in the Megillah that tells you when she was Megayer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. I don't know.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Barry. How's everyone today?
Okay.
Baruch Hashem. Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning.
Yeah, that's the big question. The big question is, when was Ruth Megayer, and secondly, why weren't we told right away?
Exactly.
If it's such a significant thing, we would imagine that it would be something that would be important for us to know. Apparently, that it's not. Well, you see, you have to realize that there was a whole question as whether or not the Torah says openly you can't take converts from Moab,
Right.
right? You're not to take any converts from Moab, right?
But we learned that
So-
that's the males.
Well, that was according to the way I understand it. We have to actually look it up and see this, learn it inside in depth. But I think that was Boaz's own chiddush. Boaz was mechadish that. So if that was not accepted halacha until Boaz paskined that, right? So there would be no possibility of Ruth being his guy beforehand.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
It would be simply illegal.
Right.
Would be illegal.
So Boaz made this chiddush in front of the Bezdin, right at the gate, right? They were meeting at the public gate or something,
Right.
right? So Boaz expounded this chiddush. So it must be at that very time, everything was in place for Ruth to show up and be McGuire. No, I mean, isn't that
Yeah. So I mean, at that point, she couldn't have been misguided before then.
right? Right.
Mhm.
But what's also very interesting, if you want to call it that, is that there are so many opinions. Rebbe has quoted at least 5 different opinions as to when she was McGuire,
Right.
going
right.
all the way from Moab all the way, all different events, all different scenarios, and we're talking about great people.
Right. Right. So we're just gonna have to continue on and see what the what we can make out of it. Again, it's a far-ranging machlokus, as you said. There are a lot of opinions on the subject, and therefore it's going to take a little bit of work to try and come to a clear conclusion about it, if we can get a clear conclusion, which is not exactly clear. All right.
Apparently, it wasn't even settled when David HaMelech became king. Wasn't there also a faction that said, Ruth was not really McGuire and David's not right? Isn't that
Right, that he was, David HaMelech was still suffering from the fallout of that, for sure.
sure? So we don't know. I mean, we really don't know. Such a mystery.
Yeah. Mhm.
But for sure, Boaz would never have married her unless he was satisfied that it was a proper kedushin.
Right.
I mean, that's the only evidence. Although, look, and that's another thing. We're going to get to it, but that's another thing. Like, I mean, today, if a woman was known to have gotten all dressed up and go into some single man's house and go lay down next to him, hello, she'd be, her reputation would be killed. I mean, she
Right.
wouldn't think of doing that
Right.
because of sneers and Mara Zion and all that. And yet,
Sure.
it's a whole big long explanation in the Megillah.
Right.
And not only that, it wasn't. Or you could say, okay, if Ruth thought of it herself, so you could say, oh, it's it's her Goyish roots that are that she would do such a thing. But Naomi's the one who planned it.
Right. Correct. All right,
So-
we'll get to that. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to it.
it's,
We may have to keep learning Megillus Rus until Hanukkah. I don't know.
all right. Okay. In the meantime, let's return to let's see, which pasuk we left off with. We left off with the
Gimel?
Gimel. I believe we're holding with Gimel. Yeah. Who would like to do a little reading first this morning?
Well, I read yesterday, so maybe someone else wants to take a turn. I mean, I'm happy to read, but if someone else wants to do it.
All right, I'll take a turn. What pasuk are we on?
Gimel, Perik Beis, the second chapter, and the third verse.
Vatelech, vatavo, vatelakate, basadeh, acharei ha-kotzrim, vayiker, mikreha, chelkas, hasadeh, livoaz, asher mish pachas Elimelech. Okay, so she went and she came, but talakate, she says she gleaned.
That's right.
Whatever that, I guess it means she harvested.
Yeah, gleaning is more of a specific expression rather than harvesting.
That's the lechet, right?
Like a shechachopea, the
Right.
matnas aniyim, right?
In the field after the harvesters, and it happened mikreha chelkas. It happened that she was in the place, or the portion, the part hasadeh of the field that was Boaz's, that he was of the family of Elimelech.
So you see the connection between Boaz and Elimelech, right?
So this phrase vayiker, that's like the word kerry, which means randomness, right?
You're right.
And mikreha, that's the same word.
Mikreha, that's also like something which occurred. Yeah.
So in other words, it's emphasizing that that this was a random occurrence. This was a coincidence that she ended up at his field.
But right. I mean, it's so Ruth went out and she wasn't told where to go, right? And so she came and she came to this particular field, and they were people that were harvesting there, and she was gleaning behind them. And it happened to be that just by so-called by circumstance that she came upon a person of land belonging to Boaz, was a relative of Elimelech. That's the way Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu had planned it out. Good morning, Lord.
Good morning, Rabbi Furst.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
We just started. Then this is again we're in the second chapter, and the third verse, pasuk Gimel.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So So what do you have to say about that? There was somewhat of a special thing that occurred to Ruth, that she happened to pick by chance the field belonging to Boaz.
But
What, what,
but it's not an accident. I mean, it was destiny. No, I mean, we're not.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are no accidents, right? Correct. No accidents.
so one of my comments here, which is from Shabbos, says that she repeatedly went and came until she found decent people to accompany.
Oh.
So maybe she went, she went to different, according to this, it sounds like she went to different places until she found the right place.
Yeah, that's what the exactly right. She was very careful about who she associated with. Yeah.
Or maybe they were careful about who they associated with. Maybe they didn't approve of her at that point. This Moabite, getting in on the Leket.
That's, yeah.
I mean, at that point, she was not part of the community, a known part of the community.
Right.
So I think I learned somewhere that it was only Boaz's crew who had learned Midos from Boaz, who were accepting of her.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Well, Boaz was certainly on a very high level. That's true.
Right, and his workers were followed suit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
So
sense.
they accepted her.
Right. That made a lot of sense. Very good. Yeah. Right. We should make a point that why did the pasuk repeat this? Right. If you notice, right, that it says that Boaz was from the mishpacha of Elimelech, right?
Mhm.
And in the first pasuk, right, the first pasuk it also mentioned that Boaz was from the mishpacha of Elimelech. So why is it being repeated? Usually things aren't repeated in the Torah unless there's some type of a necessity.
Well, going on what Barry said about Ruth looking for a suitable place, we're reminded here that Elimelech was the Boaz was from the family of Elimelech, and so had all these midos, so that that he was the suitable one, because Hashem wanted it that way too. So I'm wondering why she had to go backwards and forwards. Why didn't Hashem just lead her straight to it? Which is what is suggested in the notes here. The Malbim says that chancing on the field of Boaz, she was, and putting chancing in bracket in commas. She was quotes. She was implementing the heavenly plan to build the royal house of Israel. Yeah. Anyway, so I think the repetition is there for us to not forget the fact of Boaz's heritage.
Right. And it's important that Boaz was related to Elimelech.
Yep. He'd have a fortune.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, doesn't Eli Melech mean my God is king? And he was the progenitor of the Davidic line.
Yeah, that's good. That's very nice. Right.
Elimelech, it was really Boaz, not Elimelech.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's true, but he was from the family of Eli
right.
Melech.
It was the family name was
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Elimelech, right? That was the Boaz was an offshoot of that, right?
Right,
Okay,
that's
I hear you.
true.
Oh, so
But it does show the lineage, the line, leading to David HaMelech.
so in other words, Boaz's father was closely related to Elimelech. I guess that's what it, right?
Right. That's right.
In other words, Boaz was not a contemporary of Elimelech.
And I'm not sure. I tell you the truth, I think Boaz was very old. He lived for several hundred years, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So,
Yeah.
so it's more likely that they knew each other and they were alive at the same time.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's more likely Elimelech would have been Boaz's uncle, not
Yeah.
his I don't know,
Yeah, I think you're right.
not his brother, right?
Based on the genealogy at the end of Ruth, I think you're right. You could be right. Because it says Salma begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Oved. Oved begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. So you might be right.
Yeah.
Larry.
Mhm.
It might just be like a family grouping or something.
It's turning out that Ruth is a book of secrets.
Yeah, you would think it's
No, really,
yeah. No, it's not to take in at face value. There's a lot of undercurrents in these verses.
Real puzzle.
Mhm. All right, let's continue on and see if things get clearer or not.
V'hinei Boaz ba mibeis lechem vayomer la kotzrim Hashem imachem vayomeru lo yivarechecha Hashem. And Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the harvesters, Hashem be with you. And they said to him, may Hashem bless you.
Right, this is a way of greeting, correct? Right, that was the way that they would greet each other. Right. Okay. Right. So he gave them shalom. He gave them shalom first, and then they returned it back to him. Right.
It says here that Boaz instituted greetings in Hashem's name.
Yes.
The custom was introduced that day with the sanction of the sages in Bethlehem, said Malbim, with the intimated approval of the heavenly Beth Din, says Midrash. The Midrash.
Good. Okay. Let's continue the next passage.
Vayomer Boaz le Naaro ha hanitav al ha kotzrim lemi ha naara hazos. And Boaz said to the lad that was over the reapers, to whom is this young woman?
Right. So I'm just.
Yeah, but
wondering-
she wasn't a Nara.
Yeah,
She was almost middle-aged by that time.
that's also a good question. Right.
Maybe in his eyes, though, she was looked young.
Mm.
Yeah.
Looks can be deceiving.
That's true too.
If you remember at the Akeda,
Yeah.
the expression that's used by for Yitzhak at the Akeda was Naira as well, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And Yitzhak was, I think, 37 years old at the time of the
Right.
Akeda. So you see that it's not always an expression for very young people.
Yeah. Okay. And look at the answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. All right. What's the answer, Lou?
Vayan hanaar ha nitzav al hakotzrim vayomar naara moavia hi ha shava im naami misadei Moav.
So that's so okay. So they think she's not Jewish, right?
The one who was standing over the reapers answered and said, she's a Moabite.
Right.
He turned with Naomi from the fields of Moab.
Right.
Right.
I've got here notes I wrote down from last time when it says that when he was asking to whom this young woman belong, in other words, what was her family background? Does she fit in? And Boaz asked his foreman about Ruth's behavior before he came to the field. Perhaps she was only behaving because Boaz arrived. Also, Boaz knew of the tradition that the house of David will be perpetuated via a Moabite girl.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. Well.
See footnote 6 regarding she is a Moabite girl, footnote 6.
I mean,
Right.
you know, also to say Naara, Moavi, both terms are not correct because she's not a maiden.
Right.
She's a widow already.
Yeah.
She's not, a Nara would refer usually to a younger, unmarried girls.
Right.
And even if you wanted to say, well, she's, if a woman was 40 years old and never married, maybe you could call her a Nara. But a woman who's 40 years old and has already been married, that's I don't think that qualifies.
According to one of my notes, it says that this servant tried to dissuade Boaz, who was 80 years old at the time.
Oh. Very good.
And but it says, despite that, there's a midrash apparently, despite that Ruth was 40 years old, her beauty was that of a young girl.
Mhm.
So it's still in the eyes of the beholder, I guess.
Right, so she was given an age that, what age was that again?
It says she was 40 and he was 80,
Mhm.
according to this note. It's the Gerish Shmuel.
Okay, all right. So, right, so that's one explanation. She looked young, so she was still called a Naira because she's looking young. All right.
Wow.
Uh-huh. All right.
Problems.
Yeah. Um, right. Okay, so this is, yeah. So, I mean, you understand that this is the fact that she's from Moab. This is, as we mentioned, this was, again, not everybody knew that this was the halacha now, that only those males from Moab cannot be converted, but a woman from Moab could be converted. So she's constantly being referred to as a Moabite. Okay. All right, let's continue on.
Oh, there's a question here. It says that there's a difficulty because it says that she returned from the fields of Moab, but she was
Right.
never she was never in Bethlehem before. So how is she
Right.
returning? Right?
Right.
Returning to Bethlehem would mean that she had been there before, and then she went somewhere, and then she returned.
Right.
But this is the first instance of her being in Bethlehem. So to resolve that, they say that she went back to Moab to convert others of her family, and not succeeding, she returned.
Oh, one second. When did she go back again? Where they say this?
Well, at the point here where they're saying that she returned from the fields of Moab, she's not returning. This is her first trip to Bethlehem, apparently. But so in order to explain that she returned, meaning she had been in Bethlehem once before, it means that prior that she was in Bethlehem, and then she went back to Moab to convert her family, and being unsuccessful, she returned. That's one commentary explains it that way.
Ah. She really wanted to go back and convert her family as well, huh?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Wow. All right, look. That's an interesting point.
Yeah, but that would mean for that explanation, the person who gave that explanation is holding that she was already McGuire,
Okay.
right? And that now she's going back to get her family to be McGuire.
Right, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, he would be holding of the opinion that by this point in the story, she's already converted.
At that point, she must be converted already, right?
But it still makes sense that when the episode with Ploni Amoni happens, and he says, no, I'm not going for it. My first wife would kill me. So but that's what he says. He says, I can't, what am I gonna do with my first wife? So anyway, so at that time, the whole Besdin was there, and they were talking about all Naomi and who owns the property and all the Yerusha and all this. So it's all there. So the Besdin is there to adjudicate everything. So they probably chopped the Rhine and they said, this is Rus for the same price. We'll convert you. Here, no extra charge.
All right, look, let's see the next pasuk.
V'tomer alakata na ve'asafti va'amarim acharei hakotzrim v'tavo v'ta'amod me'az haboker va'ad ata ze shivta habayis me'at. And she said, please let me glean, and I will gather among the sheaves after the harvesters. And she came and she has been standing from the morning until now. And she sat in the house a little bit.
Whose house she was sitting in here?
That's the field house.
Field house.
The
Yeah,
little
we-
hut.
That's where you go to get out of the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, you guys never pick cotton, but I know. That's the field house. You go to the field house and you get in the shade a little bit.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It must have been brutal. That time of year, the sun is pounding down.
Yeah.
And she's out there all day. They start out at nighttime before the sun comes up. I mean, they're picking early in the morning.
I have a comment here that reads it differently. By the words, having sat in the house a little, he intimated that at home too, she tended diligently to the house, allowing herself little time to rest.
huh. Okay. Just saying that the emphasis on ma'at, right? Right. The emphasis on a bit. Okay.
Okay, it still doesn't explain why Boaz would notice her, you know. Plenty
Well, she-
other,
Well, she's a new person. She was a new person, right? She had just recently come with Naomi, so she's a new person. I'm sure no Boaz recognized the people in his vicinity, right?
I guess he recognized she wasn't one of his hired workers.
Yeah, one of the regulars, wasn't one of the regulars, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see the next person.
Vayomer Boaz el Rus, halo shamat biti al telchi li lekot bisader acher v'gam lo sa'avuri mizeh v'cho sid bakin im naa rosi. Okay, so Boaz said to Ruth, have you not heard, my daughter? Do not go to glean in another field, and also do not pass from here. Stay close to my girls.
Right. Bakin im narosai. Right. You should cleave, you should remain close to my girls, right?
What does it mean? Why does it say, have you not heard? What was she supposed to have heard? Hello, Shamata.
Right. Hello, Shamata. What is that referring to?
There's a comment here by the Gera Shmuel. It says, you heard me discussing you with my servant. Don't think I inquired about you because of displeasure at your being here. To the contrary, I insist you stay on and glean in my fields exclusively. That was the Gera Shmuel.
Mhm. So, how would you describe this relationship that's now developed between Boaz and Ruth? What's going on here?
He's treating her like his daughter.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, but that phrase, the T, my daughter is a social reference. In other words, he's distancing himself from her because he's being careful of sneus. He's not chatting up a cute little girl in the field. So he calls her my daughter to emphasize the distance.
mhm.
He's not calling her sweetie pie.
Oh, he's saying Shema means like not only just listen, but also to understand. So he's telling her he wants her to understand that she's not to go anywhere else. He's telling her that she's welcome and she's accepted here where she is now, not to seek anywhere else to go.
Yeah, well, he's being very protective of her because he is aware that she's Naomi's daughter-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, right. So actually he knows she's somewhat of a relative.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much
I mean, Naomi was his relative.
well, only because she married
Right.
but they're not relatives anymore.
Right. But I mean, there is some connection.
Right. But very, very, very nebulous connection, not really a very direct connection at all.
Right. That's right.
Okay. Mhm. He doesn't want it to go anywhere else. Not to go. Uh-huh. Interesting. There's some of there's a medrash that said he's actually telling her she shouldn't lo yeh lecha im el acherim, not to search for other not to search after avodah zorah. It was a way of he was telling her not only not to go to another field, but another field meaning not to search after other gods.
Wow. Yeah, the next pasuk also gives a reason for her to stay on his land.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's basically says keep your eyes on the field which they are harvesting and follow them. I've ordered the young men not to molest you. So maybe in those days, it's unusual for a young woman to be harvesting among a lot of men.
Right. Yeah, that was also something which was very unusual to see. But between her and Naomi, there was no other one to go out and do it, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. It's 10 to 9. All right. So we're at Pasuk Ches. All right. Good. So let's stop here for today. And we'll switch over to the next year in a few moments.
Okay. I'll be back.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
So
Thank
we're
you
up,
very much, Rabbi Furst. You too.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Learn well.
Thank you. Mitzvah Hashem, you too as well. Hope to see you all tomorrow.
we're up to test.
Yeah, we're up.
That's right.
Right. I'll pick up that tomorrow.